When my daughter-in-law told me to eat with the dogs, I smiled instead of crying. I still remember the way her words floated across the room. Calm. Sharp. Cold enough to freeze something inside my chest. She was standing near the kitchen counter, her arms crossed, her eyes fixed on me like I was a stranger who had wandered into her home by mistake. My hands were still holding the warm pot of lentils I had cooked. The steam rose gently, but her voice cut through it. "Mother, the dining table is for family. You can eat outside with the dogs." For a moment, the whole world felt still. No sound from the clock on the wall. No breeze from the open window. Not even the dogs barking outside. Just her voice echoing in my mind. I waited for my son to speak. I waited for him to look at her and say, "Why would you speak to my mother like that?" I waited for him to stand up for me the way I had stood up for him so many times in his life. But he didn't. He didn't look at me. He didn't look at her. He only stared at his phone, pretending he hadn't heard anything. And that silence told me something I had refused to understand for years. I was no longer wanted in my own son's home. But instead of crying, I did something that surprised even me. I smiled. A small, quiet smile. Maybe because the truth had finally shown itself without disguise. Maybe because I had been preparing my heart for this moment without realizing it. Or maybe because I knew something my daughter-in-law did not know. One day, life always turns back to teach everyone a lesson. And the way she treated me, I would never wish it upon her. But life would show her anyway. That day, as I stepped outside with my plate and sat near the dogs, I felt the dust under my feet and the soft breathing of the animals beside me. I felt the evening breeze, warm and gentle, like a friend trying to comfort me. And I thought to myself, a mother gives everything. Even when she is pushed away, her heart does not stop loving. I did not know then that the moment she insulted me, a journey had begun. One that would change her life, my son's life, and even mine. And the ending of that journey? Well, I will tell you. Because the same woman who told me to eat with the dogs. One day, I made her sit exactly where she made me sit. But I did it with love. Not with revenge. My name is Safia, and I am 63 years old. If you sit with me long enough, you will notice something. I take long pauses before I speak. Not because I am slow, but because life has taught me that words can either heal a heart or break it. And once spoken, they cannot return to the mouth. I was not always this quiet. When I was young, I was full of laughter. I used to talk with my hands, my eyes, my whole face. My mother would say, "Safia, your heart is too big. Be careful. People do not always understand hearts like yours." I never listened. I believed kindness could win anyone. I grew up in a small town where mornings smelled like fresh bread from the baker, and evenings smelled like jasmine from our garden. Our home had 2 bedrooms, a worn-out rug in the living room, and a kitchen where warmth lived. My father would come home tired, but the moment he stepped inside, his face softened. My parents loved each other in a way that was gentle, not loud. I always wanted a life like that. When I married Youssef, I prayed that our home would also be filled with peace. And by God's grace, it was. Youssef was a calm man. He didn't talk much, but when he did, his words had weight. He taught me that love did not always need to be spoken. Sometimes it could be shown by bringing home fresh fruit, fixing a broken shelf, or simply sitting together in silence. He passed away 12 years ago. Sometimes, late at night, I still feel the emptiness of the space he used to occupy beside me. But he left me with a gift, our son, Imran. Imran was my world. If you ask any mother, she will tell you that a son is like a small sun in her life. He brings light, warmth, and sometimes even burns her without intending to. But she keeps orbiting around him, because that is what love does. From the moment he was born, Imran needed me. And I needed him. He was a quiet child, always holding my clothes, always wanting to sleep beside me. When he started walking, he would go only a few steps before turning to make sure I was still there. I raised him by working with my hands. I stitched clothes for neighbors, embroidered shawls late into the night, cooked for families when weddings came. My fingers often bled, but my heart never complained. Every extra rupee I earned, I put aside for him. When Imran went to school, I pressed his uniform every morning and combed his hair with coconut oil. He would look in the mirror and say, "Ammi, does this look nice?" I would nod and smile. When he went to college, he traveled far from home. Every evening, I would stand outside, waiting for him to return. When he came home tired, I would massage his head with warm oil and listen to him talk about his classes, his teachers, and his dreams. I lived through him. His achievements were my joy. His sadness was my burden. And when he got his first job, oh, how my heart swelled. I remember going to my room that night, closing the door, and crying quietly, not out of sadness, but out of pride. I had raised a good man. A hard-working man. A gentle man. I thought life would stay beautiful. But life does not work like that. It has seasons, spring, summer, autumn, winter, and each comes whether we are ready or not. When Imran told me he wanted to get married, I felt nervous and excited. A mother always wonders, will she love my son? Will she love me? Will our home stay peaceful? He showed me a picture of a girl named Sana. She is kind, Ammi, he said. I want you to meet her. When she first came to our home, she was wearing a soft pink dress. She had a shy smile, eyes lined with kohl, and hands decorated with delicate rings. She brought a box of sweets and greeted me with respect. That day, I thought to myself, my son has chosen well. She will be the daughter I never had. After their wedding, Imran begged me to move in with them. Ammi, please, he said. I want you with us. This house is yours too. I did not want to be a burden, but his voice carried love, and I could not refuse. The first few months were peaceful. We ate breakfast together. We talked about their work. We watched TV at night. Sana would ask me to teach her recipes. I would show her how to knead dough softly, how to season lentils, how to make tea just right. But slowly, very slowly, the air began to change. It started with small things. A sigh when I entered the room. A look of irritation when I asked, "Do you need help?" A door closed a little too loudly. A complaint whispered under her breath. I brushed it aside. Young women take time to adjust. Marriage brings stress. Roles change. Expectations rise. I kept telling myself, she will learn. She will grow. She just needs time. But as days turned to weeks, and weeks turned to months, her distance grew. She stopped sitting with me. Stopped talking politely. Stopped asking for help. Stopped smiling. If I cooked something, she would push it aside. If I cleaned something, she would say I did it wrong. If I asked a question, she would answer sharply. And Imran. My son. He saw everything. But he was caught between love and love. He wanted peace. He wanted quiet. He wanted both of us to stay happy. And in trying to keep peace, he began to avoid conflicts. He began to look away. He began to pretend he did not notice Sana's coldness. But a mother notices everything. She knows when her child is trying to hide something. She knows when the air in the home becomes heavier. She knows when smiles become thinner and conversations shorter. Sometimes, late at night, I would sit in my room and wonder if I had done something wrong. Had I said too much? Had I helped too much? Had I not given them enough space? But my heart would whisper, no. You only loved them. Still, Sanaa's behavior worsened. She began complaining about small things. Your mother uses too much oil. Your mother cleans slowly. Your mother puts things in the wrong place. Your mother talks too softly, I cannot hear her. Your mother talks too much, she does not stay quiet. No matter what I did, it was wrong. One day, I woke up early and cooked breakfast. Sanaa came into the kitchen and looked at the table without a smile. You didn't cut the bread properly, she said. And why is the tea so light? I wanted to tell her that I had made tea the same way for 30 years. I did not. I wanted to tell her that breakfast was made before she even opened her eyes. I did not. Instead, I said softly, I will make it again. I am sorry. But inside, I felt something break. Just a little. Just enough for the crack to spread. I missed my old life. I missed my mother. I missed Yusef's gentle voice. I missed a home where I could breathe without feeling like I was walking on thin ice. Still, I stayed quiet. Because I loved my son more than my pride. Because I believed kindness would win someday. Because I thought Sanaa would eventually see my heart. But I did not know then that a storm was coming. A storm so quiet you would not notice it until it hit you. And the day it hit. The day Sanaa told me to eat with the dogs. Was the day everything I had been holding inside finally spilled over. But that is not the end of the story. That was only the beginning of a journey I never expected to take. A journey that would change all three of our lives. A journey that would test my patience, my love, and my strength. And a journey that would teach Sanaa a lesson life always teaches. What you give to others always comes back to you. The days after the bread and tea incident were strangely quiet. Not peaceful quiet. But a kind of silence that sits on your shoulders like a heavy shawl, making it hard to breathe. I noticed Sanaa waking earlier than usual, moving around the house with an expression I could not read. Her eyes no longer met mine. Her footsteps felt sharper, and even the way she closed the cabinet seemed filled with impatience. At first, I thought maybe she was simply stressed from work. But deep inside, I knew something else was stirring, something she was not saying aloud. Imran, on the other hand, was spending more time outside. He left early, returned late, and whenever Sanaa would complain about anything, no matter how small, he would quietly agree just to avoid conflict. One evening, I was folding laundry in my room when I heard their voices from the living room. They were not shouting. They were speaking in low, tense tones that carried a heaviness. Imran, you need to set boundaries, I heard Sanaa say. Her voice was tight, like she was forcing herself to stay calm. What boundaries? Imran asked. She needs to stop interfering. This is our home, not hers. My heart sank. I sat still, holding a half-folded shirt in my hands. Interfering? All I did was cook, clean, and stay in my room most of the time. I listened quietly. Sanaa, she's my mother, Imran said. His voice was tired. I know, she replied, but she makes me uncomfortable. She watches me. She comments on things. She treats the house like it's still hers. I wanted to speak. I wanted to walk out and tell them I never wanted to come in the way. But something inside me said, stay still. If you go out now, the wound will deepen. So I remained where I was. And what do you want me to do? Imran asked, sounding defeated. Sanaa took a deep breath. Ask her to give us space. Real space. There was a long silence after that. A silence that felt like a blade sliding slowly into my heart. I waited for Imran to say something, anything in my defense. But he didn't. He only whispered, "I will think about it." That night, I couldn't sleep. I looked at the ceiling and wondered how a home filled with warmth could turn into a place where my presence felt like a burden. I wondered when I had become too much. I wondered if maybe love has an expiration date in the hearts of some people. The next morning, I woke early, prayed, and prepared breakfast as usual. Sana walked in, looked at the food, and said nothing. Imran sat down, but his eyes stayed on his plate. I could feel their silence like cold metal against my skin. After we finished eating, I began clearing the table. Sana watched me, her arms folded. "Mother," she said in a tone that instantly made my hands shake, "next time, please tell me before you cook. I like my kitchen clean." Her kitchen. Not our kitchen. Not the family kitchen. Her kitchen. I nodded quietly. "I will ask," I said softly. Imran said nothing. Not even a glance toward me. Later that day, I overheard Sana's voice again from the hallway. She was on the phone with her friend. "Yes, she still lives with us," she said, annoyed. "I don't know why she can't live alone. Every day feels like I'm trapped with a shadow watching over me." A shadow. Was that what I had become? She continued, "I told Imran we need privacy. I didn't marry him to share him with his mother." Those words hurt more than I expected. I had never wanted to come between their marriage. I had never wished to take my son away from his wife. All I ever wanted was to be part of their life, not the center of it. I returned to my room and sat on the edge of my bed. My hands trembled as I placed them in my lap. I felt small. Unwanted. Like a guest who had overstayed her welcome. That evening, a new problem began. Sana started locking the kitchen cabinets. At first, I didn't understand it. I went to take a small jar of rice to cook lunch, but the cabinet wouldn't open. I checked the others, also locked. Only the lower shelf, where the pet's food was kept, was left open. I stood there in shock. When Sana walked in, she didn't even look ashamed. "Oh," she said casually, "I locked the cabinets so nothing gets misplaced. It happens when too many people use the kitchen." Too many people. It was just her and me. I looked at the locked cabinets again, and something inside me wilted. I was not being treated like a mother. Not even like an elder. I was being treated like someone untrustworthy. That night, as I lay in bed, I heard the dogs barking outside. Their bowls clinked against the tiles as they ate their food. And a strange thought crossed my mind for the first time. Maybe she sees me the same way she sees them, like something that belongs outside. I tried to shake the thought away. I told myself I was imagining things. I told myself I was being too sensitive. But life was slowly showing me the truth. Not loudly. Not suddenly. But gently, painfully, piece by piece. And the worst was still ahead. Because the day that would break me completely was coming soon. The morning of the turning point began like any other day, quiet, gray, and heavy. But there was something different in the air. Something sharp. Something that made my skin tighten and my heart beat just a little faster. Sometimes, before something painful happens, your body knows before your mind does. That morning, I felt that warning deep in my bones. I woke up early, washed my face, and wrapped my shawl around my shoulders. The house was still dark. I walked into the kitchen slowly, not wanting to disturb anyone. I thought maybe I could heat some water and make tea before Sana woke up, so she wouldn't feel irritated. When I reached for the kettle, I stopped. It was gone. I blinked and looked around. The spot where it always stood was empty. I checked the counter. The stove. The shelves. It wasn't there. I opened the lower cabinet, the only one not locked. Inside were the dogs' bowls and a bag of their food. My heart sank. I stood there in the dim kitchen, the silence pressing around me, and realized the truth. Sanaa had removed the kettle so I couldn't make tea. For a long moment, I didn't move. I just stared at the empty space where the kettle used to be. I felt something deep inside me tremble. But I tried to stay calm. "It's all right," I whispered to myself. "I will wait. I don't want to cause trouble." I turned to leave the kitchen, but then I heard footsteps behind me. Sanaa entered, rubbing her eyes, her robe tied loosely around her waist. "What are you looking for?" she asked. Her tone wasn't curious. It carried annoyance, and something else. Authority. Ownership. I swallowed slowly. "I was just trying to make tea," I said gently. "But the kettle, it's not here." Her expression changed slightly. Not guilt. Not surprise. Just irritation. "I put it away," she said. "I don't want you boiling water early in the morning. The noise wakes me up." The kettle had never made enough noise to wake anyone. But I didn't argue. "I understand," I whispered. She stared at me for a few seconds. Then, without a word, she walked to the pantry, unlocked a cabinet, took out the kettle, placed it on the counter, and said, "Use it quickly and clean up. And don't leave water droplets on the stove. It looks messy." I nodded. My eyes stung, but I held back the tears. I made the tea quietly. I wiped every corner of the stove 3 times. I dried my hands on my shawl so I wouldn't leave any marks on the towel she kept folded neatly. When I carried the tray to the dining table, I placed Imran's cup in front of his chair, the way I had done every morning for 30 years. But that morning, he didn't come to the table. He stayed in his room. Sanaa sat down, took a sip of the tea, and frowned. "It's too strong," she said. I took a breath. "I can make it again," I offered softly. "No," she muttered, "just leave it." I stood there for a moment, unsure whether I should sit or walk away. "Why are you standing?" she said, her eyes cold. "If you're done, go." I lowered my head and walked back to my room. When I closed the door behind me, my hands were shaking. My heart felt heavy, like someone had placed stones inside it. I sat on the edge of my bed and stared at the wall. Why do they hate me so much? What did I do wrong? Why am I treated like a stranger? The answers never came. But the day wasn't done with me yet. That afternoon, the final blow arrived. I was sitting in the courtyard, peeling peas, the bowl resting on my lap. It was a quiet, peaceful moment. The air was soft, the birds chirping lightly, the sun warm on my hands. For a brief second, I felt calm. Then Sanaa stormed out of the house, her footsteps loud and sharp. She looked angry, more than usual. She held something in her hand. A small towel. "What is this?" she demanded. I looked up, startled. "It's a towel," I said slowly. "I know it's a towel," she snapped. "Why was it hanging in the bathroom?" I blinked, confused. I had showered that morning and hung the towel to dry, like anyone would. "It's mine," I said quietly. "I washed it yesterday." She shook it in front of my face. "This ugly towel ruins the bathroom," she said. "It makes everything look dirty. Why would you hang something so old in my bathroom?" My breath caught. My bathroom. Not our bathroom. Not the bathroom. Her bathroom. I held my tongue. She continued, louder this time, "Don't use my bathroom again. Use the one outside." My heart dropped. The bathroom outside was not a real bathroom. It was a small wash area near the backyard. Open. Cold. Filthy. I swallowed hard. I felt tears threatening my eyes. Sana, I said softly, I have always used that bathroom. Since the day I moved in. It has never bothered you before. Her eyes narrowed. It bothers me now. And I don't want to repeat myself. Use the outside one from now on. My throat tightened. But, I tried to speak, it's cold at night. Anne. She cut me off immediately. Why do you argue so much? She snapped. Just do as I say. You act like this is your house. It's not. Understand? Her words pierced me like sharp needles. I lowered my eyes. I nodded slowly. Good, she said, tossing the towel on the ground. And pick that up. It looks cheap. She walked back inside. I stared at the towel lying on the floor. For a long time. I did not move. That towel was given to me by Imran years ago on Mother's Day. A small gift, but filled with love. He had saved money from his college job to buy it. I picked it up with trembling hands, pressed it against my chest, and let the tears fall silently. I tried to wipe them away quickly, but they kept coming. The courtyard blurred. The bowl of peas blurred. The whole world blurred. I felt myself sinking. And then, the moment that broke everything happened. Sana returned, saw me holding the towel, and said. And for lunch, don't sit at the dining table. I don't want you there when Imran comes home. You can sit with the dogs in the backyard if you're eating. My breath froze in my chest. The world stopped. She said it again, slowly this time. Eat. With. The. Dogs. I looked at her, my lips trembling. I waited for her to laugh. To say she didn't mean it. But her eyes were cold. Hard. Serious. And then, the worst part happened. Imran arrived at the gate at that very moment. He heard the words. Every single one. He saw the towel in my hands. He saw the tears on my face. And Sana turned to him and said, Your mother makes me uncomfortable. Please tell her to eat outside. My eyes met my son's. For the first time in my life. I saw nothing in his face. No shock. No anger. No sadness. Just tired surrender. He whispered. Amy, it's better if you listen. Please. For peace. And with those words. Soft, quiet, but sharper than any blade. My son broke my heart. I stood still, the towel clutched against my chest. I waited for him to correct himself. I waited for him to look at me and say he didn't mean it. I waited for him to take one step toward me. He didn't. He walked inside. Sana followed him. The dogs sat near my feet, sensing my pain. I looked at the backyard. The cracked floor. The dust. The old bowls. And slowly, as if my body were moving on its own. I walked toward the dogs. I sat beside them. And I placed my plate on the ground. Not because I believed I belonged there. But because the people I loved most told me I did. I smiled through the tears. A small, broken smile. Because sometimes, when you are pushed to the ground, you rise in a way no one expects. And that moment, sitting on the cold floor beside the dogs, became the beginning of a transformation. None of them saw coming. When I sat with the dogs that day, something inside me broke, but something else quietly awakened. Not anger. Not hatred. Something deeper. Something calm. A kind of strength I didn't know I still had. Sometimes the most painful humiliation becomes the doorway to a new life. I didn't know this yet. I only felt the sting of tears on my cheeks and the cold ground beneath me. The dogs nudged my arms gently, as if they knew my heart was trembling. I finished eating slowly. I didn't want the neighbors to see me like that. Not because I felt ashamed, but because I didn't want people to whisper behind my son's back. Even then, I protected him. When I stood up, I took a deep breath. The sky was gray, heavy with clouds. A storm was coming. It suited the mood inside my chest. I walked back into the house. Sana and Imran were in the living room. They looked at me briefly, then looked away, as if I was invisible. For a second, I watched their faces. My son didn't meet my eyes. My daughter-in-law looked annoyed, not guilty. I realized then. Nothing I did would ever be enough for her. And nothing I endured would ever be noticed by him. So I did something I had never done before. I went to my room, packed my small bag, folded my prayer mat, and took my shawl. No noise. No drama. No tears. Just calm movements, one after the other. When I stepped into the hallway with my bag, Sana raised her eyebrows. "Where are you going?" she asked. I answered quietly, "Somewhere peaceful." She smirked. She didn't believe me. She thought I was just upset and would return to the room again like always. But I walked toward the door. Imran finally looked up. "Ami, where are you going?" he asked softly. His voice was weak, like he already knew the answer but didn't want to hear it. I looked at him for a long moment. I didn't blame him. I didn't accuse him. I didn't complain. I only said, "I love you. But I cannot stay where my dignity is treated like dirt." His face changed. Small fear flickered in his eyes. "Ami, you don't need to leave." I raised my hand gently. "I do. Not for you, for myself." Sana scoffed quietly. "As if she has anywhere to go," she muttered under her breath. I heard her. But I didn't respond. I opened the door and stepped outside. For the first time in many months, I felt air fill my lungs freely. The world looked bigger, brighter, even though my eyes were blurry with unshed tears. I didn't look back. A new beginning. I walked to the only place I knew would welcome me without question. The home of my childhood friend, Ruxana. We grew up together. Played under the same trees. Shared secrets, sorrows, and recipes. Even after marriage, we stayed close. When she opened the door and saw me standing there with a small bag, her smile faded into worry. "Safia, what happened?" I didn't want to burden her with the whole story right away. So I only said, "I need a place to rest for a little while." She took my bag from my hand, held my shoulders, and said, "You will stay here as long as you need." Her house was warm, filled with the smell of fresh bread and fried onions. I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Comfort. She made me tea, sat with me, and waited. After a long silence, she said softly, "Tell me." And I did. Slowly, quietly, stopping often because my voice kept trembling. She held my hand the whole time. When I finished, she wiped her tears and said, "Safia, a woman's dignity is like glass. Once someone throws it on the ground, you cannot pretend nothing happened." I nodded. For the first week, I stayed in her guest room. I prayed. I rested. I slept without fear of footsteps, whispers, or sighs. Sana didn't call. Not once. Imran called on the second day. 5 missed calls. Then 10. I didn't answer. Not out of anger, but out of self-respect. I needed space to breathe. On the 7th day, he finally sent a message. "Ami, please come back." Sana says she didn't mean it. Please. I stared at the message for a long time. I didn't reply. Because if she didn't mean it, she wouldn't have said it. And if he truly understood my pain, he wouldn't hide behind her words. Ruxana saw me looking at the phone and said, "Love your son, Safia, but love yourself too." Her words stayed with me. One afternoon, while helping Ruxana make lunch, she said, "Safia, why don't you open a small home cooking business? You cook better than anyone I know. And you need something to keep you busy." I laughed softly. "Who will buy from me?" "I will find customers," she said. "You just cook." And she did. She posted in neighborhood groups. Told her friends. Shared photos. Within 3 days, I got my first order. 12 lunchboxes. I cooked with trembling hands. Not because I was scared. But because I had forgotten what it felt like to be needed again. The customers loved the food. More orders came. By the end of the month, my income was enough to rent a small, clean portion near Ruxana's home. Not luxurious. Not big. But mine. A place where no one locked cabinets. Where no one frowned at towels. Where no one told me to sit with animals. When I moved into that little space, I stood in the center of the empty room and whispered. "Thank you, God. You brought me where I am valued." I started earning well. I bought new dishes. New clothes. A new kettle that whistled loudly, and I let it whistle as long as it wanted. Life was not perfect, but it was peaceful. Meanwhile, in my son's home. After 2 months of silence, I received a message from a neighbor who lived near Imran. It said, "Your daughter-in-law left for her parents' home." There were arguments. Loud ones. I froze. A week later, Imran came to see me. When he entered my small portion, his face looked thinner, paler, tired. He sat on the chair silently, his hands shaking. "Ami," he whispered. He lowered his head into his hands and began to cry. My heart broke for him. He was my child. No matter what happened, his tears cut into me. I touched his shoulder gently. "Tell me," I said. And he did. He told me Sana had become more irritable. More demanding. More controlling. Even with him. Even with her own family. She insulted him, shouted at him, blamed him for everything. When he finally defended himself one night, she threw a mug at the wall, packed her bags, and left. "She says she wants a divorce," he whispered. I closed my eyes. Not because I wished for it. But because for the first time, he understood. Pain had taught him what my words never could. He looked up at me and cried harder. "Ami. I am sorry. I am so sorry. I should have listened. I should have protected you. I failed you." I cupped his face in my hands. "No," I whispered. "Life teaches all of us. You learned your lesson. That is enough." He hugged me tightly, his tears wetting my shoulder. In that moment, I didn't see a grown man. I saw my little boy again, the one who used to cling to my clothes and ask for comfort. We sat like that for a long time. Then he pulled back and said, "Ami, please come back home. I need you." I shook my head softly. "Not the old home," I said. "But you can come to mine." He looked around at my small portion, the clean floor, the tiny kitchen, the simple furniture. "It's peaceful here," he said. "Yes," I whispered. "Because peace lives where respect lives." 3 weeks later, something happened that I never expected. Sana came to see me. She looked very different. Her eyes were swollen from crying. Her clothes wrinkled. Her face tired. She stood at my door for a long moment, then said softly, "May I come in?" I nodded. She stepped inside, sat on the edge of the chair, and began crying quietly. "I'm sorry," she said. "For everything. I hurt you. I don't know why I became like that. I ruined my marriage, and I hurt you the most." I listened. Not with anger. Not with resentment. Just quiet ears, and a calm heart. She continued, "I thought you were taking Imran away from me. I thought I needed control. I thought, if I pushed you away, my marriage would be stronger. But I was wrong. I was so wrong." I remained silent. She wiped her tears and said something I didn't expect. "If you tell Imran to forgive me, he will. He listens to you. Please. I want to fix everything." I took a deep breath. "Sana," I said gently, "I forgive you. Truly. But forgiveness does not erase consequences. You have to face the results of your actions with strength." Her lips trembled. Will you help me?" she whispered. I shook my head slowly. "No," I said softly. "You must help yourself." She began crying again. I gave her a glass of water and a tissue, but I didn't offer solutions. This was her moment with life. The same kind of moment life had given me. I wasn't going to take it away from her. She left my house quietly. I don't know whether she changed completely after that. People learn differently. But I knew my chapter with her had closed. Respectfully. Peacefully. Calmly. Without revenge. Without hatred. Imran moved into my portion 2 weeks later. Not because he needed a place to stay. But because he needed his mother. And I needed my son. He worked during the day and helped me with my food orders in the evening. He would say, "Ami, your food is famous now." I would laugh softly and reply, "Good. Let the world taste something my pain cooked." We lived simply. Quietly. Peacefully. People asked why I didn't return to my old home. I always answered the same way. A house where my dignity broke is not a house I can rebuild. I built a new one instead. And I meant it. 1 year later, something happened I will never forget. Sana came again, this time with her mother. They both apologized deeply. Sana's mother said, "We treated you unfairly. Please forgive us." I forgave them. Not because they deserved it. But because forgiveness makes me lighter. Then something surprising happened. Sana came to me with a plate of food she had cooked and said, "Auntie, please sit at the dining table." I looked at the plate. At the chair she pulled out for me. At her trembling hands. I understood what life was doing. Life had brought her to the same place she once put me. And she learned the lesson without me having to say a word. I sat down. She served me kindly. Her mother watched with tears in her eyes. But deep inside, I felt no pride. No victory. No triumph. Just peace. Because when God gives justice, it arrives quietly. In a way that heals, not hurts. Today, I live in my small, bright home. My plants grow beautifully. My kitchen smells like warm bread. My son is rebuilding his life, slowly but honestly. And I am finally free. Free from fear. Free from humiliation. Free from begging for respect. I learned something important. If someone lowers your worth, walk away. Not to punish them. But to honor yourself. Because sometimes, a mother must save herself. So her children can learn to save themselves too. And sometimes, the place where they pushed you lowest becomes the place where you rise the highest. It has been many months since everything changed. Sometimes, when I sit by the window of my small home, watching the sunlight fall across the floor, I think about the journey that brought me here. If someone had told me years ago that I would rebuild my life from the pieces of my own heartbreak, I would not have believed them. But life is strange that way. It breaks you to shape you. It pushes you out so you can learn to stand on your own feet. And when you think you are alone, it places gentle hands on your shoulders. Hands you cannot see, but can always feel. In the quiet of the mornings, I prepare meals for my customers. The sound of vegetables being chopped, the whistle of my kettle, the smell of simmering spices. All of it feels like music now. My kitchen is no longer a battlefield of sighs and locked cabinets. It is a place of healing. A place that belongs to me. Sometimes, Imran sits across from me as I cook. He watches me with a heaviness in his eyes, one that still carries guilt and regret. But I never allow that guilt to drown him. He has learned. He has grown. He understands now what he did not understand before. Every evening, he comes home and says, "Amy, how was your day?" Such a small question, but it carries the weight of a lifetime. It is his way of saying, "I lost you once. I will never lose you again." And I smile softly each time. Because forgiveness is a gift I give him, not because he deserves it, but because my heart deserves peace. As for Sanaa, life dealt with her more softly than I expected. She and Imran are on separate paths now, but she visits sometimes. Not often. Just enough to show that she is trying to become better. One afternoon, she brought me a small plant. A jasmine plant. She placed it on my table and said, "I want to grow what I destroyed." I did not say much. I only nodded. Sometimes, words are not needed to close a wound. Sometimes, silence does the work. The jasmine plant sits near my window now. Every time it blooms, I am reminded that even the most fragile things can rise again with a little care. Even hearts. And mine did. I often think about that day in the backyard. The cold floor. The dog sitting beside me. My dignity crumbling like dry leaves. But strangely, now when I remember it, I do not feel pain. I feel gratitude. Because that day became the beginning of my freedom. The moment I finally chose myself. Many people ask me, "Safia, do you regret anything?" I smile and shake my head. No, I say. Even the harshest moments taught me kindness. Even the deepest hurt taught me strength. If I had stayed silent forever, I would have stayed broken forever. If I had hidden in that little room, I would have become a shadow in my own life. If I had waited for respect from those who did not want to give it, I would have lost myself completely. Walking away was not loud. It was not angry. It was not dramatic. It was calm. It was soft. It was quiet, like the closing of a book after its last chapter. And sometimes, quiet decisions change the loudest parts of our lives. Now, when I sit outside in the evenings, I can hear children playing in the street. Neighbors greet me warmly. The dogs from next door wag their tails whenever they see me. Life feels gentle again. I look at the sky and think. Maybe this is what peace truly looks like. Not perfect, not grand, but steady and kind. If someone listening to my story is going through something similar, I want to say this gently, from one heart to another. Do not stay where your soul feels small. Do not beg for love where you are not respected. Do not forget your own worth, even when others do. Walk away if you must. Walk slowly. Walk calmly. Walk with tears in your eyes if you have to. But walk with dignity. Because dignity is the one thing life will always return to you. If you hold on to yourself. My journey was painful. But it led me to myself. And finding yourself is the most beautiful ending of all.